everyone. I welcome you all to this last and 33rd module of the course of UN SDGs, which is going to be the summary of this course. So as you can see in this illustration, which is beautifully like depicting the extent of human intervention on the planet. Okay, so roughly around like a few thousand BCs, if you see this first one, okay, it talks about, we call it a fence, keeps out giraffes and the lions and the elephants and the other animals, and used to be a first like a small protective like an area which started slowly growing and growing and has grown so much that rest of the all other species are now confined to a very small area, region or place, and rest where not humans are present today. Okay, that actually shows the extent of human intervention on the planet, right, which has caused all of these issues, and we are discussing about UN SDGs, how to go back. So overall, in summation, if you see, this actually table represents human activity. Okay, human activities of population, total real GDP, number of motor vehicles, water consumption, fertilizer consumption, even some fast food restaurants, and CO2 concentration in the atmosphere, how much it has increased over the years, N2O, CH4, ozone depletion. Okay, northern hemisphere average surface temperature, how much it is disturbed, how much it is rising, loss of foreign rays, tropical rain and rainforest and woodlands, okay, over the years. So in all of these actually graphs, if you see, the human activity is directly responsible for this like a sudden exponential rise, right, and can be termed as one of the like the largest interventions on all of these millions and billions of years in the history of this planet, that like one species has dominated so much. Okay, so if you read this, the increasing rate of change in human activity since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, these reds, and global scale changes in the Earth system as a result of dramatic increase in human activities, these greens. Significant increase in rates of change occur around 1950s in each case, and illustrate how the past 50 years have been a period of dramatic and unprecedented change in human history, right? So it sums up basically like the larger and larger the human footprint is getting on this planet. Okay, and in the name of development, a lot of not so desirable things have also happened and are happening even today, right? So this illustration depicts that. Like a visual is like a stronger than 1,000 words. That's why I'm using like these in the beginning of like this summary module, so that we can convey our like a thought processes very clearly. Okay, next in this line, if you see, like we have just experienced COVID like a 19, this pandemic, and this has actually brought so much of like a disturbance, havoc on this planet, right? But there are many more like things which can bring even bigger havocs for the society, for the human society at large, namely recession, and even bigger than that could be climate change, and even bigger than that, this like a huge gigantic tsunami of destruction could be if we lose on the biodiversity. Okay, which is directly connected to like a climate change, which is directly connected to the human intervention, human activities. Well, by human, of course, it kind of encompasses all the humans of all societies, all cultures, all countries, but particularly that is not true if you see the tribes people, the other local cultures which are still thriving in the sync of nature at their own place. Perhaps definitely they are not responsible, but others are. Okay, so in the previous modules we have identified, we have seen, we have analyzed which are the societies, which are the countries which have contributed to this phenomena. They must actually change their way. So by human intervention, definitely there should be a star that it doesn't, it represents all the humans, even though we are terming it, but that's not the case. So some more glimpses, right, of changes occurring in various domains, okay, various things. So if you see laws of nature, they don't care whether it is you, me, or anybody else. Similarly, if they get rise in their exponential rate, they are not going to care which country, which society, or which group of people it is hitting, right? That's why it's a common problem. Okay, and yeah, a directionless movement where nobody cares about where we are driving, we are going to hit together a dead end. That's not desirable. Similarly, all of these 9 illustrations actually talk about different stakes, different statements, like how this can be controlled, what is the current scenario. Like in the central one, if you see, it is said that in the year 2014 there used to be one man-made article lying somewhere in the oceans, compared to the 5 aquatic animals. It's going to increase to 1:1 ratio by year 2050. Okay, that's the pace at which a waste generation is happening, right? So this is what we are talking about. And yeah, the cost to fix the climate change and when to stop is right now, right at this moment, wherever, in whichever position you are, whatever you are doing, immediately everyone should start behaving in responsible way. Okay, yeah, and see another one here. The Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stone, right? And you see this like a modern person coughing in the smoke. Okay, and about waste, right, about other economic phenomena. So in a nutshell, if you see what are the main environmental issues, okay, categorically you can take these names out, but there are even more, right, like global warming, pollution, ozone depletion, water, resource consumption, deforestation, soil degradation, waste, extinction of flora and fauna, population, and there are many more. Well, main are listed over here, and yeah, so population, if you see, is the at the bottom of all, because more mouths to feed, more resources needed, more energy needed, more waste will be generated. Okay, so there is a direct a relation in this kind of scenario, right? So yeah, you can understand. So in this whole phenomena, if we see, we are talking about a sustainable development. Well, this is my a personal understanding that sustainable development is a term which qualifies as an oxymoron. Oxymoron is a kind of apparently contradictory terms when they appear in the conjunction, right? So as long as development is there, like we have seen it before, some kind of impact will be there. Okay, so how to remove SD from the list of oxymorons is the challenge upon us. Okay, otherwise it's really a contradictory, like a conjunction. It doesn't make any sense, because as long as development is there in the present form, we are seeing that it is not sustainable, right? So we have to break this oxymoron into a real sustainable development. Okay, so climate change as a phenomena we are aware of, like global warming, extinction of species, many things like shift in weather and climatic patterns, and a lot of like things, right? So a lot of these things, they just don't happen and go away. They come with consequences. Okay, and in many cases severe consequences, and if it continues, the consequences can be catastrophic even for the survival of species on the planet, to simply put. So we do not need like regular changes. Regular changes are like a pass. People are trying. We need innovative, creative, and disruptive ideas, to change the regular phenomena. Okay, so for that we need novelty, out of the box solutions, in any terms, like products, processes, systems, anywhere, wherever you can intervene, you must do. You need to do significant improvement. That's the point. Well, design of course plays an important role in policy framing, framework generation, implementation, actionable, like strategies and things like that. So design thinking definitely helps. System thinking definitely helps. We have seen it earlier. Nothing stands in isolation, even a single water bottle. Okay, it is part of the ecosystem. It doesn't make any difference that you are able to buy a 10-20 rupees, like a water bottle. Okay, the point is, who is going to pay for the cost it is exerting on the environment, on the planet, on the water resource, on the other species, on the bottom of oceans, and all of those things, right? So it is a systemic like issue. Design with empathy is essential, so that we can feel what is going on, right? Conscious design, like aware like a design is needed. So design for consciousness is the one of the like a prime required like a things for design for sustainability. Improvement areas, multiple improvement areas, you can have your own. I'm just listing a few over here. Design for sustainability, sustainable product service systems, distributed economic model. Consider like a life cycle analysis of your like products and designs, right? Minimizing consumption of materials, energy, like all of them. Optimizing resource, like resources and biocompatibility, energy, and all of those, right? Minimizing impact in overall sense. So ESG aspects we are aware about of sustainability: environmental, social, and economic. Okay, at the conjunction of like these three, it happens like a sustainable like a solution. Okay, so how this takes place is the game for us, and it definitely connects with the broader like a society, people, processes, and products. Okay, so a coherent like a solution which you can derive from this combination, you may call it as like a sustainable solution. Some like examples. Okay, well, we have seen a lot of examples in the previous like modules, but still to give like some ideas of like innovative thinking, like a creative solutions, going like a length, like a longer, to come up with like something very very relevant. You can see this here: permeable paving, like surfaces, concrete blocks. Okay, because we are aware of today, like most of the places in the urban areas, semi-urban areas are paved, and there is a huge volume of runoff water which just goes in the drains and like it goes off. So there is very little water which percolates in the ground, right? So there is no groundwater recharge. Exhaustion is more, no recharge, and results into like like no groundwater. Okay, very severe conditions. So why can't we go for like such solutions? Green spaces, more and more green spaces, because like urban centers, they are densely packed, like a more number of people like a per square kilometer and per se. So how we can go back to the nature, because like we have observed in the previous modules how important it is to have like a breathing like a lungs, urban lungs, for the urban areas, for the towns, even villages, where one can go to simply sit around, have a like a experience of nature, and other like a flora and fauna can also survive. Otherwise, in the concrete jungle, you can see here at the background, okay, only man-made like a things, okay, so that is not actually good. Yeah, and making use of like renewable energy resources, right, more and more, okay, so their component like must increase, but yes, we need to be like a mindful of overall impacts also. For example, in case of like such like a solutions, if there are energy storage systems and if those are batteries, right, so batteries have their own like impact if you study it from LCA perspective. So we must actually solve like this problem at war footing basis, so that we can truly call it a clean energy with zero impact. Okay, so that is essential. Clean plus zero impact, right, of any sort is essential for renewable energy resources. Yeah, same goes here also, wind farms. Yeah, waste to energy, since there are like a huge volumes of like a waste getting generated these days. Okay, so instead of putting it into the dumping yards or throwing it maybe in the lakes, rivers, and oceans, or just in some open like a land somewhere polluting and all of that, why can't we like make use of this waste to transform it totally into something else and leave no waste at all, right? Yeah, even water treatment, water consumption is the highest than ever before. Okay, so it's the same water, like like a finite amount of water only is available on the planet. Okay, and it's the same water keeps actually like moving in this cycle and cycle. We are aware of this water cycle. Our like these exhaustions, actually it goes into the like rivers, lakes, and from there it reaches to the oceans. From oceans it comes into the vapor. The vapors actually float over here in cloud, then they rain, right, we get that water, then again it goes. So it's a cycle which is going on for millions and billions of years on this planet. Okay, I don't know how many times the glass of water what you are going to consume today may have actually ran on this planet, and may have been consumed by plants and animals and even dinosaurs and all, right? And so many times, because we are like having like a finite like amount of like these resources, right? So we must take care of it, because if we end up polluting all of them, where else we are going to fetch water from? There is no water available in the in the like a space. There is no tap above like in the skies. Crop rotation, yeah, food security, for food security is essential to like manage these crops in a very responsible manner and take care of the topsoil, because topsoil actually gives us like opportunity to grow like a food in it, right? So multiple solution, not just like a crop solution, crop rotation, like with the food security comes like a lot of like a techniques, okay, and methods to all of them in a like a true sense. Yeah, and like a efficient like a solution, not just for water, for electricity also, for anything and everything. So we must actually optimize, we must actually minimize consumption. Okay, very responsible consumption. Yeah, managing our forests, so they should not be irresponsible or reckless like a cutting of trees, but we can like devise a process, a method, like how we can plant and go for like a systematic harvesting of like a forest and woods, right, in a very comprehensible way. Because still, if you see, there is no nil impacting material compared to a timber or a piece of wood. Okay, whatever metals or polymers and glasses and stuff you bring, they all have certain like impacts. Okay, so in a reasonable and responsible way, how this can be managed. Yeah, sustainable transportation, people are moving larger than ever. Okay, so all forms of like transportations, if you see, even trains and flights and like a water based like a transportation, ships and etc. Okay, so very efficient one. Okay, and relatively like a mass rapid like transportation systems, okay, compared to individual ones. Okay, so the world has moved on from like those MDGs from the earlier like era to the SDG era, and in the SDG era there are several like things where we have like encompassed like a lot of things. So you can see briefly there were like 8 MDGs, and here we are with the 17 SDGs. Okay, so which is built on the understanding of the interconnectedness of prosperity of business, society and environment, those ESG aspects. All societal like sectors are connected, essential for collaboration across societies, countries. It serves a holistic approach, purpose, long term investments, need for innovative approaches, emerging planning based like a coalescing like interest and like local resources and around particular issues, etc., etc. So very detailed we have already studied. So briefly about circles of sustainability. So apart from EACs, this model is also like there, okay, in which the 4 major verticals are economics, politics, culture and ecology. Okay, and inside that like these criterion you can see these are listed over here, and you can go for a testing of a place, like how that particular place is like doing. So in this case you can see Melbourne in 2011. Okay, it is evident that on materials and energy and emissions and waste and water and air and then habitat and food, it is in the red and orange zone, right? The most critical here is in the red zone, which is emission and waste. Okay, so you can like estimate where there is the larger impact and you can go for rectification. Similarly for Hyderabad, India in 2012. Okay, so compared to Melbourne we see like a less greener like a criterion over here, majorly in the yellows and oranges. Well, fortunately no reds, not even one, but majorly in the yellows and oranges, right? No dark green anywhere. Okay, that means majorly we need to work like most of these areas, and in general we need to work like all along, right? So this is one like an important like a finding observation from like this kind of like a data analysis. Yeah, so SDGs, what businesses needs to operate effectively, what government is mandated to deliver, what civil society aims to ensure is achieved. Okay, so when all of these interests are aligned in proper like a manner, it becomes sustainable. Okay, so here you can see the type of contributions to the SDGs, percentage of types per SDG. So philanthropy, partnerships, public advocacy, sharing data, aligning our core strategy. So all of these are listed over here. Okay, extent to which companies contribute to SDGs, you can see over here more and more for peace, justice and strong institutions, SDG 16. Then gender equality, decent work and economic growth, responsible consumption and production, and so on. Okay. This talks about overview of the development process of the sustainable development goals, targets and indicators. So this is on this left hand we have the timeline. Okay, and at the middle we have development of SDGs, like how it has like come across, right? And then we have here like indicators on the right side column. We can go in detail. Well, COVID-19 has also brought like a huge impact on the society and even on the implementation of SDGs also. So you can see that like listed over here, right? So if I talk about the first one, no poverty, loss of income leading vulnerable segments of society and families to fall below poverty line. Okay, so we are aware like there was huge number of like job cuts, loss of opportunities, okay, pushing like millions of families into deprivation and scarcity of resources and funds, so, and then on the second, direct impact on food production and distribution, right? Good health and well-being, a lot of people actually went indoors, affecting their general like health conditions, so devastating effects. right? On the 4th, schools, for many were closed, and not every school was equipped for like an online education, and not every family, every children, every student was having like resources enabling them to go for like an online education, so resulting into loss or like a break of a longer period for education. For the 5th, women's economic gains at risk, they were more under pressure, like job losses were even more for like a fairer gender, right? For the clean water also there were a lot of like a challenges, supply disruption, inadequate access to clean water, like all of those things. Then on the 7th, affordable, like and clean energy supply and personal shortage, brought a lot of disruption. Okay, economy activities were suspended, like a lower income, less, like a time of working, lesser employment, resulting into lot of like a pressure on this one, on the 8th. And yeah, then we have here the 10th, reduced inequalities. Then we have 11th, 13th, 16th and 17th. So major like impacted SDGs from COVID-19. The 4 complementary pillars of inclusive growth and development you can see over here. These are the ones. Okay, so income growth, labor productivity growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all, labor rights, reduced inequalities. Okay, directly connected to the SDG 1, 2, 3, 5 and 16. And yeah, you can make your own like a such cross impact matrices, okay, where you can analyze a particular place, like how they are like interrelated, from one SDG to others, what is the like a relationship, whether it is improving at a faster rate, or is it at neutral, or maybe it is going like a down in minus, right? So there is no growth, rather it is like a going down. Okay, so such indicator like a tables gives you idea about like what is going on. And this impact like of like SDGs progresses, or if there are like challenges, if it is not moving or if it is at neutral, we analyze it at this scale. If it is going in positive direction, if it is working, okay, if there are positive results, we call it in synergy. Okay, and if it is not working, if it is going in the like a minus like a dimension, if there are like a like a situation is getting worse than before, we call it like a trade-offs. And then in the middle at 0 level we have the neutral ones. Okay, so this analysis you can undertake of any place, any organization, any such like a policy implementation or like a program, and analyze on what SDGs it is touching, and whether it is going in synergy, or is it neutral, or it's in trade-off, right? And accordingly you can work for it. For example, in energy supply like a scenario, if you see, it is having a huge like a trade-off with respect to SDG 6, that is clean water, right? So it must actually attract attention, and organization stakeholders must actually work for this. Yeah, and such like a like a materials or maybe products or processes, you can undertake any one and analyze. We have done it in the previous modules. Maybe you can take clues and you can go for analyzing like a such like entities. It will like help you coming up with the like a deeper understanding of how things are working in reality, right? So like sustainability principles in 7 areas you can see over here: safety and health, local communities, ethical standards, stakeholder engagement, disclosure and transparency, values and stakeholders, environmental protection. Well, this is not exhaustive. You can have your own based on the context in which you need to like evaluate it. Okay, so this is particularly from World Steel Association. That's why it is having like that focus. So here our 7 sustainability principles are aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. This is from World Steel Association, so that you can see over here the 7 areas: safety and health, values for stakeholders, environmental protection, disclosure and transparency, local communities, ethical standards, stakeholder engagement, right? So transformations, if you see, transformations happen at multiple like levels. You can see transformation 1 at education, gender and inequality level, mental, social, like empowering, like that kind of like a transformation, which are going to have a long lasting, like a lifelong, like impacts. If you are able to get like a proper education, quality education, you can transform your whole life, your family's life. Transformation 2 at health and well-being and demographical levels, okay, for more like assumptions and healthier life. Third at energy decarbonization and sustainable industry, so transformation at global and like a environmental like a scales, social like a scales, transformation at like a food security and security of like other elements, like natural elements like air, water, like a land, all of them, right? So keeping them intact in their natural like a condition. Transformation 5th for sustainable cities and communities, which are the largest consumer of resources, energy and everything, like huge generator of waste. Okay, so if we transform them, definitely this scene might change, right? And it's not that it cannot be done. So remember, transformation 6, digital revolution for sustainable development, right? So taking help of like a technology for the betterment of tomorrow, betterment of today, betterment of anything and everything, every single like a person, every single like a species. So in what multiple ways we can like make use of, because remember, science and technology has like always both the faces. Like when Alfred Nobel actually like prepared the composition of dynamite, he was scared like what wrong it can do. Okay, so he gave this statement, definitely like you have like such like an item which carries so much of potential, right, for both for good and bad. Okay, so it's up to you, it's up to the society, it's up to the people, what use you are going to do with it. Okay, yeah. Humanitarian response, sustainable development and sustaining peace and partnerships are three sides of the same triangle. Okay, so if one is there, two other also will be there. If one gets distracted, the two others also will get like distracted. So a peaceful like a society is essential for sustainable development. These are the words of UN Secretary General. So SDGs, for like their comparison of interventions against the like SDGs, you can check for their performances on the environmental, social and economic like parameters, and as informed earlier, you can go for like calling it in synergy or neutral or like a trade-offs, and accordingly you can choose like these representations. Okay, another like an important point I wanted to highlight in the summary is this, like how these SDGs are actually grouped, how they are like formed. So if you see, there is an order of like these 5 P's. So is one of the like analogies of structuring these SDGs, how they are structured, how they are laid, this layouting. So the first 5 actually talk about like a people, individual centric, social centric, community centric, like a majorly like a human centric, right? So more and more, like if you see zero poverty, zero hunger, good health, well-being, quality education, gender equality, it's all about like a you and me, right? Then comes the second criteria for the planet. Okay, the planet where we are living, this is our home and only home, always remember. Okay, so keeping its resources neat and clean the way we have got from the mother nature, so clean water and sanitation, responsible consumption and production so that there is no waste, climate action to negate the climate change like impacts, life below water, life on land. Okay, so all sorts of different species of flora and fauna and all the other aerial, aquatic and land based like animals and like birds and reptiles and creatures, including them all like plants, like trees, shrubs, bushes, everything, right? So taking care of the planet. Then comes more subtle things of prosperity, right? So how do you feel like a prosperous, how do you experience this prosperity, and how do you feel it at country level, at global level, right? So when things are in order, like affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, which will empower and help every individual, every household for like their own like a prosperity, right? Industrial innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, so that every place becomes a place of prosperity, right? Third, the fourth, the most important thing, okay, without which all other are like difficult to gain, is very simple, but not the least. The peace. Wherever society in that society where there is like a peace, justice, and strong institutions, you can definitely see like a people are okay, people are living their life in like a good condition. They are making progress, they are developing, they are doing a lot of like innovations and like stuff. Okay, so taking ahead like things. Okay, and wherever they are in any country, any place where there is a disturbance in peace, you can see the kind of like a civil war situation going on, like a fightings going on, like loss of all institutions, no opportunity, you can't even go out and return like a safely, nobody can guarantee that, that kind of a miserable situation. Okay, so peace is the utmost like a thing. And finally, the partnerships, all of these things can be achieved by moving together, moving hand in hand. So partnership means exchange of ideas, like a technologies, like a materials, resources, opportunities, accessibility, all of them combined. So this is this layouting of SDGs, which is very essential. You can understand in this way also how it helps. Another like a layout, like another system in which like these are laid. Okay, so you can see for economy, these are the four at the top: 8th, 9th, 10th, and 12th. Okay, social related, we have like a 7, 16, 1st, 11th, 4th, 3rd, 5th, and 2nd. Biosphere related, we have 15, 14, 6th, and 13th. And at the top comes the 17th one, the partnership. So this is also one interesting like a layout in an arrangement. You can understand how these SDGs are framed. There is another one which talks about SDG pyramid, so that the bottom comes with the people. So most of these like SDGs listed here are associated with the people. So from 1st to 10th, then comes ecology, we have 5, okay, and then the remaining 2 at spiritual level, more subtle level, like that. So this is also another like arrangement. Well, in overall sense, if you see, the SDGs are a set of 17 goals for the world's future through 2030. This is the target year. We want to achieve all of this by this year, right? Backed up by a set of 169 detailed targets. Okay, so I'm just giving you a brief again about SDGs through this. Negotiated over 2-year period at the United Nations, so that the leader organization, and agreed by nearly like most of the countries on 25th September 2015. Okay, so what is it about all these 17 SDGs? First and the foremost, these goals apply to every country, every sector, cities, businesses, schools, organization, and all the challenges to add. This is called universality. Irrespective of like a country or states or maybe races, languages, color tone, irrespective of like economic status, it applies to everyone. That's why one of the biggest like advantages or merits of SDGs is that its universality. Okay. Next, second, it is recognized that the goals are all interconnected in a system. So it's a system. If you take one out, it may or may not work. Okay, so all 17 are essential to work together. Okay, this is called interconnectedness, and it works in a system. We cannot aim to achieve just one goal, we must achieve them all. This is called integration. So all 17 are integrated. And finally, it is widely recognized that achieving these goals involves making every big fundamental changes in how we live on earth. This is called transformation, right? So let's take a brief tour again of this SDGs. Yeah, end poverty in all its forms from everywhere. Second, end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Third, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Fourth, ensure inclusive and quality education for all and promote lifelong learning. Fifth, achieve gender equality and empower women and girls. Sixth, ensure access to water and sanitation for everyone. Seventh, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for everyone. Eighth, promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth, employment and decent work for everyone. Ninth, build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. 10th, reduce inequality within and among countries, societies, places from everywhere. 11th, make cities inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. 12th, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns, basically controlling the waste. 13th, take action against climate change to combat climate change and its allied impacts. 14th, conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas and marine resources, because we have studied earlier, one of the lungs for this planet is of course like trees, the green cover on the surface. The second one comes from underwater, right? So equally important, both. 15th, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, halt and reverse land degradation, halt biodiversity loss. 16th, promote just, peaceful and inclusive societies. 17th and last, revitalize the global partnerships for sustainable development, right? So each goal, if you see, is important, rather very important in itself, and they are all interconnected, right? They are all interconnected. They all have some impacts on each other. They work in sync. They help each other. If there is a loss in one, there may be loss in many others also, right? So we have to understand all of these SDGs are very much integrated and united. So I thank you all sincerely for taking up this course. Kindly spread the causes of SDGs. Kindly spread anything and everything possible for the growth and development. Rather, we call it sustainable development, right? And leave nothing, no traces, no bad impacts behind, but good lessons to learn for the next generations. So with this, I thank all for taking up this course. Thank you all.